Alright, hello. I wanted to address some questions there were about performance whenever you saw this code. So some of the performance concerns are things like this where we are sending back a new object every time. Now remember that this is all just tutorial stuff, and what we have done is we've created contracts inside of Forge which require these instances. Now that being said, you can completely create much more performant code on your end when you're generating these guys or when you're creating these guys. We may even do this in our generator aside from the singleton nature of it. But something you can do is that you can go into the chat interpreter and notice this contains no state. Everything in here is just functional. There's no state in here. So that means it's a great candidate for being a singleton because it has no state. It'll work fine with threads. Now, before we go into singletons, you can create private instances, for example, of this guy. So let's just bring this up here, say private iMessage interpreter, and then supply this back here for Forge to use. So that right there is going to give you, an improvement, but not really, because if you create this chat message, for example, and you new it up every time, if you new up the chat message every time, this is going to happen on new every time anyways, and the interpreter is only really called once on the Forge networking side. This will make it a little bit cleaner, so it always gets the same instance. However, it doesn't solve our problem of performance. Now, you can create a pool of messages. They do have state, hopefully not changing state. Usually you set the state and you send it out. So you can create a system of pooling these messages. So if you have a chat message pool or just an iMessage pool or whatever for a specific type, you can reuse these messages and just reuse the variables that are inside of them to be sent, and then you don't have to new up the messages every time. So that's another improvement that you're able to do on your end as a developer without affecting how the library actually works. So of course I mentioned singletons, so we can also do the singleton nature of this chat interpreter. So we can go into the chat interpreter here and create our singleton here. I'm just going to do the by the books one, private static. You know what, I'm going to write it out and then I'll jump back in. Okay, there we go. Actually, I made a public static. So we have a public static chat interpreter instance, and this is an instance of itself. And this is created statically as a new chat interpreter. So we can come over here and get rid of this and just say this is a chat interpreter instance. And then supply that instance back. So now this one technically would be the more performant one in this scenario because we can new up this message as many times as we want, and it's going to be using the same instance for the chat interpreter. If you would like me to go over pooling for messages, let me know. I'll probably go over it anyways because I'm sure some people will want to know. That one is, I'm going to have to prep a little more and create all the classes and all of that to be able to pool this. In fact, I may even make a tool for pooling particular messages, and you could just say give me a message from the pool and then supply the type of message you want, and then it'll do that kind of stuff. So that may even be a tool that I add in. But yeah, so that's one way that you can increase performance here is by creating a singleton, just because this doesn't contain state. Now if this did contain state and you wound up making variables in here for some reason, I haven't found a reason that you would need to, but if you do, keep that in mind that you are working in a multi-threaded environment, and creating singletons it does not work well inside of a multi-threaded environment. So just keep that in mind. But for the most case, you could probably turn these into singletons, and we can make the code generator have a checkbox for you to allow you to just have a singleton prepared and use a singleton inside of here. Okay, so I thought that was a cool idea, so I'm going to inject this short clip into the video here. If you right-click, go to Create Forge Networking and Networking Message Script, I've added a checkbox here for singleton interpreter, so you can turn that on, and let's turn on interpret on server, I guess, and create that. So what that'll do is inside of this test thing script that I generated, it's going to use a singleton instance, a test thing interpreter instance, and just do exactly what we did over here and create that new instance there to be used. So there you go. Thanks for watching so much. And if you have any questions, please let me know. And I'll see you guys next time.